Everybody, we're on day 30 of our Bible in a Year plan. We're going to break up. We got 4 chapters left in Exodus, and rather than doing 4 in a day, we're going to break up and do 2 and 2. I think that fits better for the pace that we're trying to go. So, yeah, we will jump straight into it. We are reading out of the CSB. If you're interested and you want to follow along, I'll also have it up on the screen. You can follow along as well. And we'll jump straight into it. Exodus 37. Bezalel. I don't know how to say that name, because there's sometimes it looks like an I and sometimes it looks like an L. That guy made the ark of acacia wood 45 inches long. Imagine for a second. Okay. Sidetrack. And I tried to keep this informal so I don't feel bad breaking in here. Imagine for a second, you work to make the Ark of the Covenant, and you have some dude who's in his mid-30s making videos online that can't even pronounce your name correctly several thousand years later. I'm sorry, bro. But, yeah. Alright. Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches high. He overlaid it with pure gold inside and out and made a gold molding all around it. He cast 4 gold rings for it for its 4 feet, 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other side. He made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He inserted the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark for carrying the ark. He made a mercy seat of pure gold, 45 inches long and 27 inches wide. He made 2 cherubim of gold. He made them of hammered work and at the 2 ends of the mercy seat, 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other end. At each end he made a cherub of one piece of the mercy seat. They had wings spread out. They faced each other, and they covered the mercy seat with their wings. The faces of the cherubim were looking toward the mercy seat. He constructed the table of acacia wood, 36 inches long, 18 inches wide, and 27 inches high. He overlaid it with pure gold and made a gold molding all around it. He made a 3-inch frame all around it and made a gold molding all around its frame. He cast 4 gold rings for it and attached the rings to the 4 corners at the 4 legs. The rings were next to the frame as holders for the poles to carry the table. He made the poles for carrying the table from acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He also made the utensils that would be on the table out of pure gold, its plates and cups, as well as its bowls and pitchers for pouring drink offerings. Then he made the lampstand out of pure hammered gold. He made it all of one piece, its base and shaft, its ornamental cups, and its buds and petals. 6 branches extended from its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand from one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand from the other side. There were 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with a bud and petals on one branch, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with a bud and petals on the next branch. It was this way for their 6 branches that extended from the lampstand. There were 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms on the lampstand shaft, along with its buds and petals. For the 6 branches that extended from it, a bud was under the first pair of branches from it, a bud under the second pair of branches from it, and a bud under the third pair of branches from it. Their buds and branches were of one piece with it. All of it was a single hammered piece of pure gold. He also made it 7 lamps, snuffers, and fire pans of pure gold. He made it and all its utensils of 75 pounds of pure gold. He made the altar of incense out of acacia wood. It was square, 18 inches long and 18 inches wide. It was 36 inches high. Its horns were of one piece with it. He overlaid its top all around its sides and its horns with pure gold. Then he made a gold molding all around it. He made 2 gold rings for it under the molding on 2 of its sides. He put these on opposite sides of it to be holders for poles to carry it with. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He also made the holy anointing oil and pure fragrant and expertly blended incense. Chapter 38. Bezalel constructed the altar of burnt offering from acacia wood. It was square, 7.5 feet long and 7.5 feet wide, and was 4.5 feet high. He made horns for it on its four corners. The horns were of one piece with it. Then he overlaid it with bronze. He made all the altar's utensils and the pots, shovels, basins, meat forks, and fire pans. He made all its utensils of bronze. He constructed for the altar a grate of bronze mesh under its ledge, halfway up from the bottom. He cast 4 rings at the 4 corners of the bronze grate as holders for the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with bronze. Then he inserted the poles into the rings on the sides on the altar in order to carry with them. He constructed the altar with boards so that it was hollow. He made the bronze basin and its stand from the bronze mirrors of the women who served at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Then he made the courtyard. The hangings on the south side of the courtyard were of finely spun linen, 150 feet long, including their 20 posts and their 20 bronze bases, with silver hooks and bronze bands for the posts. The hanging on the north side were also 150 feet long, including their 20 posts and 20 bronze bases. The hooks and bands of the posts were silver. The hanging on the west side were 75 feet long, including their 10 posts and their 10 bases, with silver hooks and silver bands for the posts, and for the east side toward the sunrise, 75 feet long. The hanging on one side of the gate were 22.5 feet, including their 3 posts and their 3 bases. It was the same for the other side of the courtyard gate. The hangings were 22.5 feet, including their 3 posts and their 3 bases. All the hangings around the courtyard were of finely spun linen. The bases for the posts were bronze. The hooks of the bands were posts were silver, and the plating for the tops of the posts was silver. All the posts of the courtyard were banded with silver. The screen for the gate at the courtyard was made of finely spun linen, expertly embroidered with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. It was 30 feet long, and like the hanging of the courtyard, 7.5 feet high. It had 4 posts with 4 bronze bases. Their hooks were silver, and their top plating and their bands were silver. All the tent pegs for the tabernacle and for the surrounding courtyard were bronze. This is the inventory of the tabernacle of the testimony that was recorded at Moses' command. It was the work of the Levites under the direction of Ithamar, son of Aaron, the priest. Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made everything that the Lord commanded Moses. With him was Oholiab, son of Ahishamach, of the tribe of Dan, a gem cutter, a designer, and an embroiderer with blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and fine linen. All of the gold of the presentation offering that was used for the project and all the work on the sanctuary was 2,193 pounds, according to the sanctuary's shekel. The silver from those of the community who were registered was 7,544 pounds, according to the sanctuary shekel. 1/5 of an ounce per man, that is, half a shekel according to the sanctuary shekel, from everyone 20 years old or more who had crossed over to the registered group. 603,550 men. There were 7,500 pounds of silver used to cast the bases of the sanctuary and the bases of the curtain. 100 bases from 7,500 pounds, 75 pounds for each base. With the remaining 44 pounds, he made the hooks and the posts, overlaid their tops, and supplied bands for them. The bronze of the presentation offering totaled 5,310 pounds. He made it with the bases for the entrance to the tent of meeting, the bronze altar and its bronze gate, all the utensils for the altar, the bases for the surrounding courtyard, the bases for the gate of the courtyard, and all the tent pegs of the tabernacle for the tabernacle, and all the tent pegs for the surrounding courtyard. Okay, that is it for today. Today is going to be a little bit shorter because we're splitting up the last 4 chapters into 2 and 2. But yeah, we'll go ahead and jump into the first question. How do the detailed descriptions of the tabernacle and its furnishings enhance our understanding of worship and God's holiness? Again, I think this kind of hammers home the point that seeing how not only just the specificity of it and how perfect everything needed to be as far as instruction wise, but how good this was. How much, gold is always considered a very, very valuable thing. Silver is always considered a very valuable thing. So the sheer amount of this that went into just this building that was supposed to be the house of God, if you will. I think it does hammer home the idea that God is holiness, and even though what we could build here on earth is not going to be worthy of him, they were still trying to do something that was going to be worthy of God. Question 2. What can we learn from the artisan's skills and dedication in creating the sacred items? How can we apply that to our own service in the church and community? So, I kind of touched on this yesterday, but the idea of if you are a Christian and an artist of some kind, whether you are a musician, a painter, a writer, whatever, use those for the glory of God. Make art for God. But beyond that, and I did touch on this one day, I believe, whatever your job is, whatever you're skilled at, whether if you work in an office, if you're a woodworker, or you work on cars or on an oil rig, whatever you do, you can do it for the glory of God. There should be no reason that your employer is not able to say, you know what, this person, he or she is either the best employee that I have or one of the best employees that I have. And that is strictly because of how you work and the fact that you are doing your job, even though you're doing it for your boss and for your company or whatever, you're doing it for God. If you're let's say you do baked goods and you sell them to people locally in the community. You don't have a boss. You are your own boss. Okay, for all the orders that you have coming in, you're doing that for God. It's as if God is placing the order and you are doing it for him. If as Christians we would do that, I think that would be something, just that alone would cause Christians, opinions people have of Christians to go up pretty significantly. Christians should not be lazy. You should not be slacking off. You should be doing your job, and you should be the top performer, or one of the top performers. So, and that goes with volunteering at church too. We don't volunteer and to do a lackluster job. Go in and give it your best. Yeah, I said it. Okay, question 3. In what ways can we incorporate the principles of reverence and beauty in our own worship practices today? I think that looks different for different people. I do think that, and I'll say it. I think that there are a lot of people in the Pentecostal persuasion that definitely do not show any level of reverence for God, especially in their worship. It is very much based on emotion. It is very much a show. Look at me. So this just randomly came to mind. But we had at least at the time of this recording, we had the inauguration recently. And they have different people of different faith backgrounds and stuff like that come up and pray at different points and all that jazz. There was one guy that came up and prayed, and I don't know his name or his denomination or anything like that, but I remember like afterwards, actually text my wife and I told her like, this is not a prayer, this is a performance. And like, I don't remember exactly even what he said. I was gonna do a video on it and I decided against it, but like everything that he did, it came across 100%. He was not praying. He was not trying to have a conversation with God, which I think a lot of those national prayer stuff is that way just by nature. But there's a sharp contradiction in what you saw with like what's his name, Franklin Graham, I think, with his prayer and this gentleman. And it was very much I have my 5 seconds of fame. I am going to be as loud and boisterous and as flamboyant as I can be. It was 100% a performance thing, and there was no reverence whatsoever in what he was saying and how he was acting. I think that is the norm, not the exception for Pentecostal churches. I do think that there is a lot of flashy, look at me. I'm seen as more holy if I can run around and scream and get people's attention, and so that's what I'm going to do. Instead of actually focusing on God, you're trying to pull attention to you. That is one way I think that reverence can be lacking, and it can be obvious that it's lacking. So I've taken some shots at the Pentecostal persuasion. Apologies if you are Pentecostal or I grew up Pentecostal. I've been in Pentecostal churches literally my entire life until like not even a year ago at this point. So yeah, what am I doing? Sorry, I got off track. So appreciate everyone. That answered the question, I think. Appreciate everyone watching and listening up to this point. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. It really helps the channel out. Word of mouth is still the best way that podcasts spread. So if this is blessing you, share it with somebody that you think will also be blessed by it. They can feel free to start at the beginning. They can jump in right where we're at. They can start at the beginning and watch more to catch up, and then be watching every day, whatever they want to do. There's no real wrong way to do it. I just want to help people stick with reading their Bible every day and stick with. And so once we're done with this, at the end of this year, we're going to start next year. Same thing. We're just going to do different translation, and we're going to keep going through. And we'll see. I've got several translations lined up, so we got a couple years planned already. So yeah, I think that's it. Hope this is a blessing to you. Hope it continues blessing you. God bless.